This time, it's more than simply rivalries and diss songs. Jim Jones' whole home is threatening to collapse. If you believed he was just creating publicity, rethink your assumptions about his rap career. His wife has finally made public everything. The documents for the divorce have been submitted, and the upcoming disclosure may destroy Jim's professional life. However, is this simply another celebrity split? Or has there been a significant betrayal, hidden for years? A dual existence controversy, covert activities, and the shadowy reality that even the most renowned in the field figures have been there will be an attempt to conceal the general public. Furthermore, these are not merely rumors. The wife has revealed some unexpected facts that will cause you to question whether it's true that Jim Jones is an expert manipulator. Who is exerting influence over his wife? Is this a marketing ploy? Or is reality so distorted in a way that the industry itself cannot protect him? However, one thing is for sure. Today, the truth will come to light. Hold on tense because of what I'm going to reveal. You're going to blow the internet away, Base. You believed you were aware. All the information available on Jim Jones, the elegant and seasoned rapper, glamorous lifestyle star. Love with the story of Chrissy Lampkin has been developing years before our eyes. However, what if I informed you that all you think to was false, even though it was true? Indeed, you read accurately. The internet is moving. Chaotic at the moment since Chrissy has finally revealed the truth about Jim Jones and submitted a separation. This isn't like other, however. There was a celebrity split. It's unsightly, startling, and full of betrayal. Since Chrissy has, let's be honest, been more than 20 years of writing for Jim Jones' years. She asked him to marry her over 10 times. He hasn't been married for years. Not yet. That should have increased suspicions, however, now that all is evident. Everything makes sense because Chrissy has been keeping some startling secrets. GY secrets that will soon be revealed. Illumination. However, why did Chrissy eventually decide to break up with this person after so many years? Okay, folks, you're going to learn because of what has been taking place. Let's take a look back. Due to Jim Jones has a long history of using street music as a wild card credibility as well as business. In private, you will begin to question everything. His actions have maintained his public profile. For many years, but an unknown, according to insiders, he has been keeping some important secrets hidden. Yes, people, we have insiders. Chrissy fed up with Jim's dishonesty, deception, and dubious commercial methods. In addition to the accusations of adultery that have been for years, there were rumors about him. If you have been listening, you have ought to understand that Jim and Chrissy's relationships were never simple. They were involved for what appeared to be and forever. However, in spite of Chrissy's, Jim never took the final step out of patience. This is the point of complexity. Much stranger because it comes out that Jim never planned on marrying Chrissy in the first position. That's right. This individual was tricking her for many years, believing they were constructing. Each of us has heard rumors that Jim was unfaithful. However, those close to it's not only that, Chrissy, he was truly leading a double life as they. We weren't simply one woman together, but two. Jim Jones was charged with relationships for years with a number of ladies. Chrissy was worse because she was conscious of them. Secret meetings in hotels. And she even recognized the women who bravely went to her DMs and gave an explanation. The circumstances. However, why hadn't she departed earlier? That's where things start to become somewhat entangled. Apart from being Jim's Chrissy, a longtime lover was also actively engaged in his business affairs. To put it simply, Jim Jones was failing to maintain cleanliness as demonstrated by his dubious financial actions, as per alleged causes of money laundering. Chrissy was in a situation she couldn't just get out of, since doing so would result in a loss. Jim and everything else. Yes, he was aware. That's exactly what he was. Chrissy was causing harm in the background while this man was having a great time out here. His life demonstrating his aptitude for design and overspending as if it didn't exist. Command. However, the reality is that secrets don't stay in the grave forever. One of our Chrissy's claims that an unnamed source found some receipts that fundamentally changed the circumstance. Currently, we are not only talking about other women's texts. There were a lot of those, I assure you. Instead of offshore banks and statements accounts and the transfer of millions of dollars about in contradictory ways, Chrissy had had enough of her stupid behavior. However, it gets strange at this point, even wilder, since reports claim that Jim was accused of cheating not just on Chrissy, but also dishonest in terms of money. Chrissy was helping Jim with establishing his brand. She was additionally investing her personal funds in their joint endeavors. However, she didn't know that Jim was allegedly stealing funds from her and utilizing it to fund his personal ventures initiatives. Oh, and read it, right? It was said that Jim was out here, making use of Chrissy's hard-earned cash for his side. When Chrissy found out, ladies, a few of those secondary projects were she started assembling pieces for other women, items together following the conclusion of the game. Moment she made the decision that enough was enough. Now I have a story to tell you. Chrissy is you don't want to cross this type of woman. Jim has always had a woman as his devotee. She helped him when he started rapping, was destroyed and defended him when he was called a washed-up rapper by some. She even added her own. His career was placed on wait in order to maintain his relevance, and he repays her in this way. Oh no. Chrissy would not tolerate this. Thus, she started compiling evidence based on sources. Chrissy got together in secret. Proof of Jim's dubious actions for months, taking screenshots and proceeding via emails. And even by using private investigators to get the complete narrative. Additionally, let's just say that she out to be worse than anyone could have anticipated since it was a complete embezzlement, fraud, and controversy involving cheating. As we concluded, Chrissy had learned more than simply adultery. She was doing more than just selling in a criminal group. And you know what? All the receipts were with her. Additionally, she's going to defeat Jim. Chrissy isn't merely submitting a divorce petition. She will arrive. Wants a separation from the unfaithful rapper whose receipts showed a great deal larger. Untrustworthy business practices, concealed accounts, as well as money that is missing. Let's take an examination of all that Jim Jones has. As you can see, Jim was out, enjoying themselves, flaunting on Instagram, and spending time with women who didn't know what loyalty was. Chrissy wanted to say that because the IRS doesn't. Jim Jones has allegedly been playing a dangerous game for a while, making connections and figuring out what she found might place him in serious legal risk. Years, an anonymous and insider with ties to Jim's, according to the financial team. Chrissy wasn't the only person who saw anything odd monetary exchanges. The federal government had. I've already been watching you closely. I've listened to Jim being on their radar. And you know what? Chrissy had everything. The proof they needed. Let's now discuss the whereabouts of all this money. Moving Jim was said to have been money laundering using a variety of businesses, some of which were reputable, others were completely dishonest. As in case that wasn't terrible enough, some of the businesses were purportedly filed without Chrissy's consent under her name understanding. You read properly. Yes. Jim claimed to have used Chrissy as scapegoat in the event that the government never appeared. She would be the one to. Chrissy was not aware of the fall until she started investigating it. Following recognizing her name on documents she owned, not signed, the game was over. Additionally, this is the point at which things get difficult. Consider a shift since Chrissy took any as a prudent woman would. She turned the Jim's script. Instead of just Chrissy is packing her luggage and heading out, did not just confront Jim over this. She hired a team of lawyers to examine each train transaction, as she was short on cash. Additionally, they found that millions of dollars were entering and exiting accounts at random. Foreign investors and acquired these purchasing of real estate under false pretenses. False pretenses. But wait, things get worse. As it happens, Jim wasn't just he was avoiding taxes and concealing money by referring to him by Wesley Snipes. And you know what? The IRS had already found him. The sole explanation for his had not yet been sent to jail. because they did not have enough trustworthy proof. But Chrissy showed up with records of if you believed she was going to keep this knowledge private. Rethink that. After Chrissy learned regarding the wire transfer, emails, and bank statements transfers, as well as clandestine transactions that nobody was aware of it, she believed she needed to respond since Jim had positioned her up to take responsibility for his transgressions. Thus, she proceeded straight to the police. Yes, that is accurate. Juiced the ultimate power move. She didn't just get a divorce. She changed her name to Jim. In a nutshell, Jim didn't expect this because, let's be honest, he has consistently devalued Chrissy because years, thinking she was the loyal ride or I'm a lover who's always there. However, he failed to notice that Chrissy is not just loyal but also incredibly clever. Additionally, Jim Jones is presently going through more than a divorce. What's most strange is that Chrissy is receiving all of the funds she contributed. Jim returns because, according to the law experts, the IRS is pursuing him. Inquiries, litigation, and even prosecution of criminals, considering her unintentional participation in Jim's. Chrissy has a compelling argument to inherit a significant portion of his wealth. Additionally, she can argue that she is entitled to financial compensation. And to put it mildly, Jim is in a strong stance to fight her in court. However, things get considerably more intricate as it turned out. Chrissy had declared a divorce, revealing the entire industry went against Jim. Him because of money problems. Rappers who had referred to Jim before as they're there ignoring him now, buddy. Company partners are cutting off their ties. And the federal government is rapping on his door. Jim, though, is panicking. As stated by, he has been hurrying around those who are close to him to send money using lawyers and attempting to fix the harm. However, it is too late. He was beaten by Chrissy at his own game, and she's not just walking away now. She's departing rich, a free lady. However, what will become of Jim next? Did he lose everything? Will the federal government, he's in prison? The primary concern of everyone else was taking part in his dodgy operations. Because trust me, Jim wasn't working by himself. Okay, let's go on to this final portion. We've watched this bizarre expose. Jim Jones goes from being a brazen rapper to a man in need who is seeing his empire disintegrate. It's time to reveal now. All other participants, as let's face it, Jim wasn't the only one. There were those who were employed behind the scenarios to fill in for him and make sure he never made it with his illicit money. But Chrissy is making sure that everyone falls. Alongside him, prior to discussing the final blow, let's take a brief look at Jim's participation in some significant challenges, such as fraudulent enterprises, IRS, and questions about concealed funds. Chrissy altered the path and filed a report against him, instead of taking accountability. However, stranger is the fact that based on recent disclosures from Jim's inner circle, consisted of an entire team of individuals who sought to conceal his financial chaos, encompassing his long-term management of a firm. Some of these names are unbelievable. If Jim desired for the money to disappear, so this was the one with the strings. And you know what? He has already begun to spy. This chap took care of all the dubious exchanges. Jim folded the moment. His name was brought up by Chrissy's legal team. And the information he gave could have Jim spent years behind bars. Jim's purported rappers, peers in the industry. Who were? Chrissy started piecing everything together. Collectively, she found that a few of Jim's most famous individuals were involved of his group. But they were also helping money laundering him. This is the moment when it becomes quite sticky. Companions weren't just spending time with him, they participated in the plan as well. This included high-end vehicles, registered flights on private jets under bogus names paid for abroad, and with cash accounts associated with a few of the biggest brands in the industry. Additionally, these rappers swiftly cut off their connection with Jim following Chrissy exposed his money laundering, taking away, unfollowing him and his photos as if their friendship had never existed. Do you recall how Chrissy noticed her name on records that she didn't sign? Okay, so she wasn't alone either. Let's be honest, Jim. Nobody desires to be the next individual on the IRS hit list. Here's when things become complicated. Go insane. The same thing was done to some of his closest companions, relatives, business partners, among others. And now every one of them is turning against him. It couldn't get much worse. One exists. Additional component to this puzzle, since based on findings from the inquiry into Jim's financial situation, it seems that the authorities have been monitoring him for much longer than anyone had thought. Started years ago. And the sole explanation, the reason he wasn't caught sooner, was he was being protected by someone inside. Indeed, we are discussing dishonest investors, accountants, and even attorneys' offices that were concealing proof. However, now that since Chrissy made the situation public, they are no longer able to hide it, and Jim has nothing left to do. Thus, we'll see what occurs next. His at first lawyers were positive that they could come to an amicable agreement. However, as soon as Chrissy handed those documents, it was finished. As stated by reports, Jim is presently experiencing he has trouble paying his legal bills. His businesses are confiscated and his accounts are being investigated. And his group is leaving. Jim behind for quick rappers who formerly stood behind him and are now pretending they were unfamiliar with him. Jim is losing everything of his possessions. However, even worse, a few of these identical people owe him money. Additionally, now that they're looking into him and employing it as justification for not paying him back, furthermore, he is being duped by his own people. Here's when things start to get quite dangerous, as, according to the latest sources, Jim is formally being watched by the government for taxes, wire fraud, and money laundering. Additionally, the IRS has been strengthening its case for years, insiders claim. Additionally, now that Chrissy's receipts, the only thing left to do is waiting for them to knock. Thus, what will Jim do next? To be honest, it looks bad. If the charges, if accurate, he might spend a substantial length of incarceration. His profession is basically over, and his companies are closing each one individually. Jim thought he had everything is under control. However, let's be honest. This must be among the most significant narrative turns in the history of hip-hop. And she's leaving with the bag, Chris. He thought he was too intelligent to be discovered. And Chrissy would never go. However, he ultimately played himself and is currently paying the ultimate cost. Thus, I must question everyone. Do you believe Jim's goodwill is over? Will he recuperate? Or will this be the last of his profession? More significantly, who else do you believe that was involved? Kindly share your thoughts in the space provided for comments below. If you'd want additional details, Crazy exposes such things like this. Thus, if you would like, sign up and turn on alerts. Because there will be more, I promise. Shortly. Okay, everybody, this is it. We recently found one of the 4 years. Chrissy and Jim Jones, the invincible pair, Lampkin, and the most shocking revelations in the history of hip-hop. They were able to withstand the industry's drama and treachery. Or so we thought. Now, however, when a woman such as Chrissy finally departs, but she doesn't simply leave, silently disappearing. She is blazing the entire item down. Everything is disintegrating. Not only is Chrissy abandoning Jim, but she's revealing him. How is her departure going? Let's look at what has changed and what caused her to act inappropriately. She had always known Jim and had backed him during all of the scandals, every commercial conflict, every scandal. However, now that she's done, it needs to show that something important took place behind the scenes. And the thing is, Chrissy isn't just she packed her stuff and departed. What occurs? What comes next? Everyone is already aware of how this industry works. At one point, you're one moment impenetrable. The next, you're simply one more headline. She is stealing Jim's whole legacy alongside her. Jim is a main attraction, but his name isn't being talked about for music or power plays, business plans. Instead, it's for his death. How far is the question? Does this work? Because when you're in, you gain a lot of opponents as a result, all during the game. Additionally, when they arrive when they see blood in the water, everything, what follows? Is Jim protect himself? Does he drop his own? bombshells. Is it because of Jim Jones? Let's confront it. Based his career on being 10 steps ahead. Now is the time. At last, he loses it all. He didn't expect this. And Chrissy just created now that it has been viewed by all. Let's talk about the larger problem. Since you are all conscious that when one monarch dies, another ascends, I so had to inquire as to who is mostly benefit from Jim Jones's taking. Is this individual from his own social group, adversary, or someone hiding in the background to replace him? Because what if this wasn't Chrissy alone? What if she was the final one? Let's not act as though these things are not organized by industry. You're at the top one day, then the next, they're taking you away in a lot of bigger game. What if Jim had already been eliminated, positioned to lose? And Jim Jones seems to be the next individual too, as the power transfer occurs on that list over. What would occur right now if Jim Jones really loses everything? And who is going to come ahead? Considering its power battle, and when one individual loses their position, someone else is always available, competing for it. This split isn't your typical one. However, there is a winner. The real query, and what's worse is that if it's Chrissy who is offering the most, blow, the person behind her is tugging the strings. Someone is becoming more powerful. From Jim's death, Jim's name is enduringly connected to this chaotic public area. Despite the fact that he could restore his financial and professional standing, sustain himself online, destruction, and whatever happens, the legacy of Jim Jones has also suffered. It might never fully recover from it. Finally, I want to know if Jim is Jones finished. Is now the moment that Jim isn't the type to go, let's be honest, down without a struggle? Does he expose Chrissy, releases a song of retaliation, and taking his own argument farther? Or did he formally disappear from the public? Or is this actually the moment we see a wrap? Did the legend die for good? Tell us what you consider, comment, and keep in mind that there is much more to this story. There are still hints and leaks to come on. In case you haven't signed up yet, what are you holding out for? Click like button, add a remark, and turn on alerts, discoveries. And yourself already know the first place to get it this very moment. Because trust me, this is just the start. And you won't want to should overlook the upcoming chapter when it comes to out. Please let me know if Jim Jones is finished. Is the actual conflict just getting started? And let us discuss it. Get out of your seat, you all, in the comments below. The following one, keep checking back as we'll analyze everything we just talked about, involving the death of Jim Jones and Chrissy's treachery, trade secrets. This isn't a little drama. It's a complete dispute where individuals' reputations are destroyed. Allegiance is pointless, and your life will end due to a mistake. Jim Jones is hanging on by a thread right now. Is his career coming to an end? Let's be honest. We've witnessed Andy's career's end. Spending a minute playing the game on your making a name popular for all the wrong reasons. Causes. Additionally, history is ending now. The moment has come for legends to either thrive or fail. What Jim will do? Go to scorched earth, fight back, and disclose all, or just vanish another fallen king in the cemetery of the industry. Since, let's be honest, no one enjoys this sector. Additionally, Jim may not have Ave. He doesn't play it well in the future. What is your current position on social media? Right now, Jim is writing with some folks, asserting that he is being manipulated, but others think Chrissy is at last coming clean. The reality? However, this is the thing. No one can really foresee what will take place next. For this reason, I would want to who you believe is standing by Jim, and whether you believe he's acting, think that Chrissy had enough of and made the real Jim Jones visible. Or if you think she was deceived and set up, would you kindly leave a comment? Away, as trust me, this story is far from finished. Who are the actual hidden, who are the players behind this? Hurry up, you guys. Understand that this isn't just a casual separation. Jim has something to offer someone, losing everything. So think about who is looking on from a distance at Jim's kingdom. Crumble is awaiting his replacement. Due to the fact that there is always an individual competing for the throne when the monarch is overthrown. Thus, if you believe that the drama is finished, you're totally wrong. When we observe separations, this is where things start to get strange. Scandals that have instantly destroyed careers. However, something about this is not merely a romantic partnership. This is an act of power. The narrative has ended. Wrong. And when people start to declare their dominance and the real mysteries are made public at that time. Consequently, I would like to know Jim's next move. Come back stronger. Or is this the last nail in the coffin after I got feeling that this is just the beginning? Do you think this is crazy? Just wait to find out what's going to occur next, because trust me, there's more important than you and Jim Chrissy find out where you'll hear it alone already. In case you haven't already, it starts right here, registered. However, why are you even striking? Click the like button, write a comment, and most important activities alerts. Due to the impending upgrade will change everything. Hold on to it. I'll see you all at the next one.